Chris hace cada vez más cosas que antes no podía. Supongo que el peso se lo...
Amy stood in front of Brian with trembling hands, her heart pounding as she whispered, "Amy, what are you doing?" But before she could respond, Brian smiled softly and said her name again, reminding her of the promise they once made never to repeat the mistakes of their past. Yet here they were, standing in a moment that felt too powerful to deny. His voice lowered as he confessed that his love for her was overwhelming, uncontainable, and real. When he asked her to marry him, the world seemed to slow. Her answer, "You know I will," was immediate and certain, sealing a new beginning in their already turbulent lives. As music played faintly in the background, the two embraced, exchanging "I love you" with quiet certainty. Their engagement would soon become the center of one of the most dramatic storylines in the entire history of 1,000-Pound Sisters, especially as rumors began swirling about whether Tammy and the rest of the Slaton family would attend Amy Slaton and Brian Scott Levern's chaotic, Gothic Halloween wedding. The anticipation surrounding the wedding built rapidly online as fans braced themselves for what many already predicted would be the most chaotic and unforgettable event the show had ever documented, a mixture of Gothic romance, emotional explosions, and deep-seated family conflict. What began as a dreamy, fairy tale-like love story quickly turned into a high-stakes emotional battlefield. When Brian proposed last Halloween, it represented far more than a romantic gesture. It marked a turning point in Amy's personal transformation. After surviving a turbulent and traumatic divorce from Michael Halterman, Amy swore never again to sacrifice her happiness or silence her own needs to please someone else. Her journey since then had been rocky, filled with moments of doubt, tears, and small victories. But when she introduced Brian to the world as her fiancé, fans witnessed a woman who had rediscovered what it meant to be valued, heard, and loved. Brian supported. Even at his own expense, Chris Combs placed himself in the eye of the storm, standing between his sisters and a reality TV machine that threatened to consume them entirely. While viewers have followed Amy and Tammy Slaton through the public roller coaster of 1000 LB sisters, it is a common misconception that everything visible on camera reflects reality. In truth, the story that unfolded behind closed doors, shrouded in legal fine print and the relentless pursuit of ratings, is far darker than the audience could imagine. The truth begins not with the sisters themselves, but with the contracts they were asked to sign when TLC first approached them. At the time, Amy and Tammy were struggling financially, emotionally, and physically. Tammy's health issues made even leaving the house a challenge, and Amy's desire to start a family added a layer of personal urgency. The promise of fame and financial relief seemed like an opportunity to finally change their lives. However, what seemed like a lifeline was, in reality, a gilded cage. These contracts, tightly bound and opaque, prioritized the network's interests far above those of the stars themselves. The contracts dictated nearly every aspect of the sisters' lives. They defined when and how filming could occur, what personal information could be shared, and, chillingly, even which health crises could be captured on camera. Rumors suggest that TLC had the authority to selectively air incidents of medical emergencies or crises, making choices not based on the sisters' well-being, but on narrative entertainment value. If Tammy suffered a near-death episode, the network could opt not to broadcast it, thereby preserving their public image while withholding potentially life-saving information from broader audiences. Chris, initially introduced as the jovial, witty brother, the comic relief amidst weight loss struggles, soon realized the gravity of the situation. Unlike the cameras, Chris saw the exploitation for what it truly. The dark truth about Chris Combs and the secret TLC contracts surrounding Amy and Tammy is far more complicated, more dramatic, and more unsettling than viewers ever imagined. When most people first tuned into 1,000-Pound Sisters, they believed they were watching a humorous, heartwarming reality show about two sisters, Amy and Tammy Slaton, struggling with their weight, fighting for their health, and trying to rebuild their lives. But behind the quirky scenes, the emotional breakdowns, and the dramatic cliffhangers was a network that maintained a quiet but powerful grip over every moment of the Slaton family's life. According to insiders, the reality that fans thought was unscripted entertainment was actually controlled by some of the most shocking and restrictive contracts ever handed to new reality TV stars. Amy, Tammy, and even Chris were pulled into agreements that shaped their lives in ways they were not prepared for, and the consequences nearly tore their family apart. When TLC first approached the Slaton sisters, Amy and Tammy were in a vulnerable position. They were not wealthy celebrities who could negotiate better pay. They were two small-town sisters struggling with health issues, finances, and a desperate need for stability. Tammy could barely leave her home without assistance, and Amy was trying to manage her own health while dreaming of becoming a mother. So, when TLC offered them instant exposure, a paycheck, and the chance to change their lives, they accepted. But what they didn't know was that these contracts were designed to protect the network, not them. Rumors claim the sisters were locked into long-term agreements that granted TLC near total control. The network allegedly dictated their filming schedule, restricted what they could share online, and even decided which parts of their personal lives were allowed to be shown to the public. One of the most shocking rumored clauses was a medical disclosure restriction, which insiders say allowed TLC to choose. Fans may recall the countless scenes where Tammy exploded at her family or Amy broke down crying as she felt overwhelmed. But what many viewers never knew was that much of this chaos was allegedly manufactured for the sake of television drama, with insiders claiming that producers intentionally delayed meals, extended waiting times before appointments, or engineered high-stress situations specifically to provoke Tammy into losing her temper because they knew those moments would go viral. According to one insider, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they needed her to snap because that's what made the show addictive. And this manipulation not only fueled the show's most dramatic episodes, but also deeply affected Tammy's emotional state as she felt trapped in a cycle where her worst moments became entertainment. Meanwhile, Amy was facing her own battles, particularly when it came to scenes portraying her as overwhelmed or unstable, which insiders say were often exaggerated for dramatic effect, focusing on messy rooms, difficult moments with her kids, or arguments with Michael that were filmed and edited in a way that highlighted her weaknesses rather than her genuine attempts to be a good mother. This pattern of manipulation became even harder to bear when the now infamous $50,000 payment dispute emerged, which, according to reports, became the final breaking point for both sisters at the end of Season 7, leaving them feeling humiliated, trapped, and exploited, especially when TLC allegedly reminded them that their contracts did not allow them to walk away. Amy's struggle as a mother became one of the most heartbreaking aspects of the situation, as she tried to balance caring for her sons, Gage and Glenn, with the intense filming schedule of reality TV. Yet insiders claim that TLC did not care about her emotional or parental challenges and instead pushed to use them as content, filming extremely private moments that made Amy feel like she could not escape. Amy and Tammy Slaton's lives have always unfolded in front of the cameras, turning their weight loss struggles, family tensions, personal victories, and emotional breakdowns into one of TLC's most watched reality franchises. But behind the scenes of the show that made them famous, a storm has erupted that is now spilling into public view, revealing a much darker side of the reality television industry. What began as a dream opportunity for two sisters from Kentucky has escalated into a heated legal war involving allegations of unpaid earnings, breached contracts, manipulation, and the exploitation of vulnerable cast members. The heart of the conflict centers around a shocking $50,000 payment dispute, a lawsuit reportedly filed by TLC, and a retaliatory response from Amy Slaton claiming the network never delivered money that had already been earned. To understand how matters escalated so dramatically, one must look back at how the sisters entered the reality TV world in the first place. When Amy and Tammy first appeared on television in 2020, they brought something fresh to a genre already saturated with weight loss stories and personal transformations. Their unfiltered humor, Rough around the edges honesty, thick Kentucky accents, and willingness to show their daily struggles, whether emotional, physical, or family-related, made them instant internet icons. Clips from their early episodes went viral on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, turning the sisters into social media sensations. Their dynamic with their brother Chris added a comedic yet heartfelt element, making the show stand out from programs like My 600 Pounds Life, which typically focused on a single patient per episode. Instead, 1,000 Pounds Sisters highlighted family bonds, personal battles, and the constant pressure the sisters faced as they tried to change their lives while remaining entertaining for millions of viewers. Yet with rising fame came rising expectations. Each new season demanded more content, more. Authorities are believed to be comparing bank transactions, phone records, digital data, and every possible witness statement to determine whether Amy had any involvement in distribution or higher-level possession. And investigators suspect that more arrests could follow if her communications or contacts point to a wider circle of people. Prosecutors may pursue the harshest possible charges because her previous conviction sharply increases the severity of how the law interprets a second offense, and judges often view repeat arrests as a pattern of behavior rather than isolated mistakes, making pleas for rehabilitation far less persuasive. The most heartbreaking part of this situation is that everything Amy once fought so hard to build, her financial stability, her reputation, her independence, and her fragile emotional recovery, now hangs in the balance, with years of progress threatened by a single legal catastrophe that could redefine her future. Online reactions have exploded across Facebook, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube, with creators rapidly posting timelines, breakdowns, and analysis videos, while some viewers demand that TLC cut ties with her permanently. A smaller group expresses sympathy, arguing that years of public humiliation, mocking comments, and mental health struggles may have contributed to destructive decision-making. The mood surrounding Amy Slaton is now a painful mix of shock,